Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Momentum Monday. So we talked about decisions and the bias that can affect you making a good decision. Again, information is the important key when making good decisions. So the first bias we talked about was the availability bias. The way that you can overcome the availability bias is when you feel like you make a decision based on seeing something recurring, it's important to go out and research if there are other options that are as good, if not better, than what you typically see over and over again. The second bias was the halo effect. And the halo effect, if a certain person is espousing from an expertise, you need to make sure that you believe them credible in their field of expertise and don't allow that additional expertise to leach over into other areas that they may not truly be an expert. The third bias was the future framing. In future framing, you need to ask yourself the question, is it important today what I see in the future? And that's kind of a difficult thing as it relates to, are you putting too much emphasis on what it will be like in the future versus how it will be today? Motivated reasoning was the fourth bias we talked about. Motivated reasoning is incredibly difficult to eliminate because it has a lot to do with your self-image. When you are faced with a decision and you feel like motivated reasoning may be a bias, if you feel like your self-image is being threatened by a decision that you're making, it's incredibly important that you pay attention to that and try to put your self-image aside to making a positive and good choice. Escalation bias. So again, when we've invested so much time and energy into a particular project, but we can't see the forest for the trees, that the project is failing. There's two things that you can do with escalation bias. You can neutralize the failure and then also just understand sunk costs. And what that means is that the money that you've invested, the time that you've invested, the energy that you invested is gone no matter what, whether the project succeeds or fails. And then lastly, we talked about the planning fallacy. To overcome the planning fallacy, it's important to take a third-person perspective. So for example, if you were planning a project and you felt like in your memory, you could get it done in 3 weeks, think about if the project was assigned to someone else. Would you agree to that same timeline if you weren't the one who was in control of it? So just a few tips for overcoming some of the bias as you go through the decision-making process. Again, we make hundreds of decisions every day, and decisions are only as good as the information they're based on. Hope you have a great Monday and a great week. I'll see y'all next week.